It's ACC basketball presented by Subway, and yes, it is a dream to be here at Cameron Indoor Stadium despite all of the changes this week. We've got the Elon Phoenix in town to take on the number 2 Duke Blue Devils after a lot of shuffling to get to this point here at 4 o'clock this afternoon. And welcome everybody, along with Chris Patola, I'm Doug Sherman. Okay, so it's not Cleveland State. It's not Loyola, Maryland. It is the Elon Phoenix. It's been a crazy 48 hours around here, but we are thrilled to be here with some college basketball.
We are, Doug. It's deja vu all over again with this pandemic, but it's pretty cool these two teams end up playing. You know, I think Duke felt an obligation to those fans who make a pilgrimage this time of year with the students gone. So they wanted to make this game happen. And then for Elon to be the team, Mike Schrage, their head coach, spent a number of years on the bench for Coach K working for him. So the fact that you get this matchup with all the winding road it took to get here is pretty cool.
Now you see Coach Schrage with his deep ties to Duke University. 9 years total on Coach K's staff. From 99 to 08, he was the academic and recruiting coordinator, and the Dobo went to a couple of Final Fours and was part of the 2001 National Championship staff. Under that man, Mike Krzyzewski in his 42nd year as the man in charge of the Duke Blue Devils, and we are ready for basketball. Thankfully, Mark Williams jumping center, and he wins the tap from Michael Graham, and it's Duke with the ball first. Blue Devils working inside where Williams should have a huge size advantage at 7'1". He gets deep into the paint and scores on the first trip. Meanwhile, the Phoenix, who just over 24 hours ago didn't know they were going to be here in Durham, start McIntosh at the point, Watson, Burford, Gillens, Butler, perhaps the best player now rounding into shape for Elon, and then Michael Graham.
This Elon team has played in some big arenas to this point. The Dean Dome down the road being one of them, so they're not going to be afraid. And it's an Elon team coming off a big win against Winthrop at the buzzer, starting to get healthier than they've been all year.
Now, in your playing days, Chris, you had the opportunity playing for Army to come in as the little guy in the Cameron, so to speak. What's it like for these guys, the Phoenix? You've seen Cameron a million times on TV, but now you're on center stage. Yeah,
you can't get beat in layup lines.
Right.
You know, you have to believe that you're supposed to be here and should be here. There's 2 shots at the rim to start this game for Duke. Obviously, their size up front is going to be overwhelming for Elon. But it's a lifetime memory. You know, I mean, to have played in the Dean Dome and have played in Cameron Indoor Stadium during your season is pretty special. The roll of the ankle there.
That's Torrance Watson, the senior from St. Louis, Missouri transfer. And one of the Power 5 transfers to Elon, that if you're going to hang and compete with a team like Duke, you need him on the floor as often as possible. Pass too far out in front of Burford, out of bounds, turn it over to Duke. The good news there, though, it's not a live ball turnover, which is a potential problem for Mike Schrage. Got to take care of the basketball team.
Well, and they had the play. You just got to complete it. You know, Duke's going to ball pressure. They're going to get into the passer. Those backdoor cuts are a nice pressure release. You just got to complete it.
Foul on the post as Hunter McIntosh, the point guard, was trying to defend Paolo Banchero down low. Check. The broad-shouldered freshman Trevor Keels who lays it in. That is 3 straight buckets at the rim.
This Duke offense, coming off of that 2-week break, has been humming. Now the opponents have not been what they're going to face for the bulk of the rest of their season, but it's good to see they're making shots and clicking it at a high efficiency rate.
Gerald Gillens Butler, the Butler transfer with his first 2. 6'4" Duke early. Open look for more. Nothing but that. Tell you what, he might be the most improved player in the ACC this year.
And one of the best. You know, he is certainly in the conversation for Player of the Year. He's been Duke's most valuable player to this point, and he's been their best leader. He's been one of the most consistently productive players since day one of this college basketball season.
And I think of guys like Wendell Moore Jr., Ochai Agbaji at Kansas as Williams blocks that shot out of bounds. As guys who we should be highlighting in college basketball, but they stayed in place, continued to get better, and now as a junior, see Williams come up with his first block shot of the day. They have themselves in position to still get to their ultimate goal, which is, of course, the NBA.
Oh, and it reaffirms the old adage, I guess it's a classical adage, that you're not a fully formed product when you're a freshman, believe it or not. There's a lot of learning to be done about your game and about life itself. Wendell Moore's a junior. He played like a freshman, he played like a sophomore, and he's figured it out. The light has gone on. He had a great offseason, and we've seen the production as a result.
He comes up with the takeaway. Right to the basket. For two more, Hunter Woods couldn't stop him. 11 for Duke.
As the great philosopher Busta Rhymes once said, give me some more, some Wendell Moore.
We welcome you back to ACC Network Basketball presented by Subway. Lots of familiar faces have flanked Coach Mike Krzyzewski over the years, including the man he is opposing here this afternoon, Mike Schrage, in his third year as head coach at Elon. And he is somebody who Coach Krzyzewski has known since Mike was very, very young.
He is. Dan Schrage, Mike Schrage's dad, was a teammate of Coach K's back at West Point. He was 2 years ahead of Coach K. Mike Schrage was a manager at Indiana for Bob Knight. So you think of the coaches that Mike Schrage's been around. Manager for Bob Knight, part of Coach K's staff for a number of years. He was on Johnny Dawkins' staff at Stanford for a number of years. I mean, he's just a basketball lifer. He's one of the most genuine people I've ever met. I had a chance to work with him for a year when I was on staff here before he left to go to Stanford with Johnny. Just a great person and a terrific coach.
He spent 8 years at Stanford after leaving Duke under Coach Dawkins, and then worked under Chris Holtmann at both Butler and Ohio State before getting his first opportunity as head coach at Elon. And by the way, Elon College is about 40 miles to the west of here, so it was easy for them on short notice. I mean, this game, again, didn't get done and announced until about 3 o'clock yesterday afternoon, and that was part of the equation to allow for this matchup to happen. Three-point ball good by Gerald Gillens Butler, redshirt senior from Orlando. He's got 5, and that brings the Phoenix back to within 4.
And that's what they do, Doug. They take threes. They attempt 28 a game. They make 10 a game. This is a volume three-point shooting team.
Great strap around by Trevor Keels. He's got 4. The associate head coach John Shire told us after shoot-around today, we asked how many different schools approached you and how many was Duke University in discussions with about filling this slot that changed hands from Cleveland State to Loyola Maryland. And because of the COVID issues at those two schools, we wind up with Elon. And he said it was probably about 10 schools that they were talking to. And there were a lot of different puzzle pieces that had to fit just right for it to be the team out of the CAA.
Well, Elon had a game today scheduled against Shaw. They figured that out. And, I said it at the top. I mean, it's appropriate that Mike Schrage gets to play against Coach K in Coach K's final season. It's appropriate. And it's for Duke. You talk about an opponent. They have Virginia Tech next. Elon and Virginia Tech, there's a lot of similarities. Now, Virginia Tech a little bit more talented, but in terms of style of play, it actually ends up being a good prep for Duke.
Keels on the breakaway. 12 of Duke's 15 points have come in the paint.
Well, those are those live ball turnovers. You just can't. You can't afford to give Duke runouts. And their defense was not great before they went on that break. A lot was made about Duke and their offense in the second half against Ohio State. I thought it was their defense that let them down. where you saw some of that fatigue from the travel and that point in the season, they did not guard well. I mean, Ohio State shot 48% in that game. They made 5 threes in the second half. I thought Zed Key really punished them in the paint.
With 1 on the shot clock, Elon will keep possession.
You know, your offense at times on the road is going to struggle. Your defense has to bear down and carry you at times. And I didn't think it did it against Ohio State. And, you know, Coach K telling us today, he said that, you know, their offense has been better, but he's still not happy with where their defense is at. And it was so good to start the year.
Shot clock expires as Keels knocks it out of bounds, so that is turnover number 6 already for Elon. Well, Coach K did make it very clear that that was a well-timed break coming out of the loss to Ohio State, and certainly on the offensive end, the last 2 times out against non-conference opponents, they have been excellent. I mean, they were sensational shooting the basketball both against South Carolina State on Tuesday and then again on Thursday against App State. Off to a quick start from the floor again today, and there's a corner 3 buried by Jeremy Roach.
You know, the one thing about the exam period is you can't practice as much as a team, but guys still get in the gym. I mean, they're going to get their shots up. They're going to rep it up, and I think part of the shooting that Duke has been on here over the last couple games and to start this one, you could tell they just got a lot of reps up, a lot of shots.
Zach Irvin misses. Here comes the freshman A.J. Griffin. Off to his classmate Trevor Keels, who misfires. Joey Baker got a hand on it, and Duke saves it. Baker to the corner for Griffin. His coach says he's got just about as soft a touch as you could have, and he illustrates it on his first shot from the floor right there.
What a story he is. I give A.J. Griffin a lot of credit. He has fought to be a factor. Basically didn't play his last 2 years of high school basketball. Suffered an injury when he got here to Duke. Had to miss time early in the year. He is starting to feel healthy, starting to get more confident, and I give him a lot of credit. Because sometimes guys, especially young guys, when they get hurt and they aren't playing to what they think they're capable of playing or playing at all early, they just pack it in and they're done for the year. This kid has fought to be a factor.
Yeah, knee injury in October was thought to be more of a time-consuming rehab than it has turned out to be, thanks to the work of A.J. Griffin. He's a little New York tough from Hudson Valley, Ossining, New York.
It's not exactly New York tough, Doug. The Hudson Valley.
The upstate New York guys are tough as well. Come on. Out of Archbishop Stepinac High School, and as you said, he didn't play nearly as much as he would have liked to during high school. Good look inside from Michael Graham, another native New Yorker from Brooklyn out of Xaverian High School. Blue Devils on a 10-2 run. Baker turns the corner, uses the left hand nicely off the glass.
That was another guy Coach K brought up today. You know, and he's a guy who came in as a specialist, a three-point shooting specialist, has really diversified his game. There on the drive, he's defending better, he's rebounding, he's a captain on this team.
Off the block. The other co-captain, Wendell Moore, misfires. Back the other way, Elon. Great hustle by Griffin to get back and block the shot by McIntosh. Great to see A.J. Griffin healthy on the floor, contributing for the Blue Devils, who are up 14. The ACC's leader in block shots this year, Mark Williams, has 2 already here in this ball game to give him more this year than he had all of last year as freshman.
Yeah, it's what he does best. You know, outside of certain moments this year, he has not played to his potential. Like, I think there's a lot more that should be expected from Mark Williams. I think physicality has bothered him at times this year. You go back to game 1 against Kentucky. Oscar Tshiebwe really punished him. Zed Key hurt him in that Ohio State game. This is a guy he's long, he's athletic, and he kind of floats in and out of games. He's been good against zone, but as Coach K told us today, against zone, nobody's really matching up with you and banging you constantly. You can find open space. He was good against Gonzaga, but Chet Holmgren and Drew Timme aren't the most physical of bigs. He's got to play better. He's got to be more consistent, Mark Williams.
7'1", 242-pound sophomore who, when he was inserted into the rotation midway through last season, he did make a huge difference defensively for the Blue Devils.
He sure did. But you have to game plan for his shot blocking. I mean, that has to come up in your preparation for Duke. Shot fakes around the basket. Know that he's coming from the help side. I mean, he's a very good shot blocker.
He gets 1 out of 2 from the line. The Duke lead is 24-9, nearly 9 minutes in here at Cameron Indoor. Clean look for McIntosh, little strong, long rebound. Baker tracks it down. Duke with the basketball. Moore quickly ahead. Griffin's pass knocked away. Banchero gets it back, and he's tied up. Mark Schnurr, the official on the baseline, says it was clean, and on the held ball, it'll go the other way.
Well, it was a great play by Gillens Butler to jump into the passing lane right here. Great anticipation, and that's a foul. I mean, you got somebody by the arm. That's kind of the definition. But a good disruptive play by Gillens Butler to steal a possession here for Elon.
It goes as the first turnover of the afternoon for the Blue Devils. This is Hunter McIntosh, a 6'2" junior from Snellville, Georgia. His setup found Gillens Butler, who could not make it. Banchero back the other way. Baker, shot ready as always. And the ball comes to McIntosh. And Coach Mike Schrage says, from the moment he stepped on campus, Hunter has led the team for us. He's been one of our guys. There he makes the pull-up.
He sure has. Coach Schrage's eyes lit up when we asked him about McIntosh, guy who's played 30-plus minutes in all but 2 of their games this year, former CAA Rookie of the Year. A really good competitor.
Griffin no, and then on the rebound, foul goes against Mark Williams. Mass substitutions for Duke. Well, we have 4 women's basketball games tomorrow afternoon starting at noon Eastern, but we are focusing on these 2 beginning at 2 Eastern. Virginia Tech will take on Florida State, and then number 2 NC State hosting Virginia at Reynolds Coliseum. All games are right here on ACC Network and the ESPN app. One app, one tap. Banchero with the block. Roach. Keels. Duke leads by 15.
And that's why this Duke defense is so important, because it facilitates their offense. They have finishers in the open floor. They're unselfish. Just a good look ahead by Roach here. Banchero coming from behind. He's alert defensively. Good unselfish pass. It's a good team building there.
There are a couple of empty seats on that Duke bench today. The first is because assistant coach Nolan Smith is missing today's game due to the school's health and safety protocol. And in a statement released earlier this afternoon, the school says an assessment by Duke's medical personnel indicated no other members of the program are at risk with this particular circumstance. Meanwhile, there's another assistant coach who's not here.
Chris Carrawell had knee replacement surgery, went in right after the Ohio State game. Hasn't been back since as he recovers. Send our love to Sewell, and I hope he's getting better. Knee replacement, he's got that old man body, Sewell. Get well, my friend.
And Chris, not that I'm looking to get rid of you, but there's room down there. You know, it's been a decade since you were on that bench. I'm sure you'd slide right back in.
See, you're always trying to get rid of me. I'm okay sitting right here with you, well above the fray.
9 minutes remaining first half. Nice look inside. Banchero goes up strong and lays it in. Good balance for Duke on the offensive end, collectively shooting 57%. And 8 of their 9 players who've gotten on the floor have scored. Ball poked away.
Somebody's got to be a receiver. McIntosh is just being hounded by a bulldog in Trevor Keels.
Banchero, no look. Keels, good fake. Anticipates the cut and leads Banchero right to the bucket. He was fouled and will shoot 2.
This is a good passing Duke team. They average 18 assists a game. And they look for each other and they move to open space. And that's not well defended. I don't know how you lose Banchero on the backside there as he rolls to the rim. But it's, you know, in the games, you look at like the Ohio State game, only 11 assists. You go back to Kentucky, only 8 assists. You know, that's an area where that offense at times has gotten stagnant and they rely on the special abilities of Banchero. But as Coach K told us today, when that ball's moving and it's not sticking, you know, you got a lot of guys who can do some stuff offensively, and it is an unselfish team.
Well, Duke does lead the ACC in assist-to-turnover ratio. Wendell Moore really sets the tone. But somebody like Paolo Banchero has improved dramatically. That through the first 3 games of his college career, he had 1 assist and 10 turnovers. Over the last 7 coming into today, and it flipped completely. 21 assists to 10 turnovers. 10 turnovers. Here he is on the takeaway. Paolo missed. Kind of a hush comes over the crowd here at Cameron Indoor.
Or that is, so he's human. Hush.
Timeout. Back to Cameron Indoor in a moment. Thousands have been affected by southern and Midwest tornadoes. If you would like to help, please visit redcross.org/ESPN to help the Red Cross respond and help people recover from this disaster. With Chris Spatola, I'm Doug Sherman here at Cameron Indoor Stadium, Durham, North Carolina, for a game that, well, for a while it didn't seem like was going to happen. But I tell you what, the Duke University Athletic Department, Coach K, the basketball program, was very motivated to get an opponent and get this game played. But they had parameters. They weren't going to go and get a power conference team to come in. They wanted to have a game like this, and I think this suits them very well, playing the Phoenix on short notice.
Yeah, there's no question about it. And, you know, it does for Elon as well. They've played a tough schedule this year as they go to their 2-2-1 three-quarter court pressure. You know, they played a really tough schedule. They were on the road at Florida. They played over at North Carolina. They're here. They play Arkansas next. So Mike Schrage has challenged his team strategically to prepare for conference play.
On the run-out, Michael Graham lays it in. And the timeout comes from Duke. We'll take it with him. Back to Cameron in a moment. And Chris, here's what you were talking about, the power conference opponents Elon's already faced today, with a trip to Fayetteville, Arkansas coming up next.
First of all, you have to have an athletic director's buy-in in order to play a schedule like that, because you're probably going to lose most of those. But look, you can't spring a big upset. You can't have that attention-grabbing moment unless you play the game. And so you got to go play those games in order to potentially have your moment.
Paolo Banchero using his size, got a chance for 3. The 6'10", 250-pound freshman from Seattle is just bigger than the guys trying to keep him from the paint.
Yeah, that's what makes him special. He can play that muscle game. I mean, he can muscle you now, but he's also got a really nice finesse to him that is exceptional for his size.
How is his back to the basket game at this point in the low block?
It's good. You know, it's better. Like we asked John Shire today when we were talking to him after practice. They said, look, game on the line, where do you want Paolo Banchero? Where are you getting him the ball? And he said on the elbow. You know, they run that little ISO play off of the elbow, usually the left elbow for him. He said you don't want him further away from the basket, like beyond the three-point line necessarily, because that's what teams want. You want him with that size away. And his post-up game is good, don't get me wrong.
Love that baseline out of bounds to find Keels for 2 more. He's got 10.
But that's what makes Banchero special. You know, he's just so good facing up at 6'10".
There he is defending the perimeter. Former Butler Bulldog, Gerald Gillens Butler, with the shot clock at 4, leans in, tries to get the foul. Nice job by Banchero not to foul him. Keels into post. Roach did a nice job to handle that pass, get it back out to the corner. Off the mark was Wendell Moore Jr. Moore nearly had a steal. He's had some eye-popping performances this year for Duke, including last time out, 21 points, 4 for 4 from the arc.
You know, Duke has been really good under out of bounds this year. They've scored at a high rate. It's not well defended, as Gillens Butler got caught in a screen and his teammate didn't help him out. But they've done a nice job executing under out of bounds.
The pass came from the ACC's leader in assists. He's got an illegal screen called against Michael Graham. But Wendell Moore has kind of become, if you still can use the term, the point guard of this team. I mean, he has become such a good passer, doesn't turn it over as much anymore. He's really become the complete package this year.
He sure has. I mean, he's going to be a pro. You know, first-round pick. Just a complete package. I mean, that's the best way to put
it. Roach, Griffin, and Keels on the perimeter. Williams back into the game inside. Baker stands in the corner. Ball gets kicked out of bounds. Duke will keep it with 9 on the shot clock. And you may have also noticed that the Duke coaching staff wearing masks today and at shoot-around this morning because of what is going on in the country and right here in North Carolina with the further spread of the Omicron variant. They have gone back to trying to do everything they can to mitigate the spread. And so practice this morning, shoot-around this morning, was held with masks on every player as well. And I like the message Coach K delivered to his team at the start.
He spent 10 minutes, the first 10 minutes, talking to his team on COVID.
Hannah with his first 2.
And he said no excuses. Like, we're going to figure this out. We're going to work through it. We're going to use it to make us better. But he did. He spent the first 10 minutes talking about that mitigation and talking about COVID.
Keels rattles home the 3. 13 points for the freshman out of PBI. And you know, you've been privy to work under Coach K and be around and to see him give talks like that. But for those of us who get occasional glimpses, it really is eye-opening to see the leadership that he does have and the presence that he commands regardless of who he is talking to and whatever the topic is.
Yeah, he doesn't leave anything to chance. Like, he's going to confront the minutia. Not that COVID is minutia, but you get the point. I mean, I think on a game day, I don't know many, or maybe there are. You know, I think there are a lot of coaches that are looking at what's going on out there in the country right now and saying, how are we going to handle this? And the problem is there's no leadership. There is nobody right now, forget college basketball, just in college sports, saying this is what we're going to do. Everybody take a deep breath. There's no leadership. And again, that's where you get back to this conversation of a commissioner. Somebody to just grab us by the reins and say, this is what we're going to be doing strategically moving forward.
But at this point, that's just pie in the sky. So it's left to Coach K and the other coaches and administrators to do their own thing. 36-17, Duke. Well, if you're going to come into Cameron Indoor Stadium and try and hang with the number 2 team in the country, there are 2 truisms, Chris, that you have to do. 1, you've got to take care of the basketball, and 2, you've got to shoot it well from the perimeter. And Elon so far in the first half has done neither. 9 turnovers committed, and they've made only 1 3-point shot.
Yeah, most of those points in the paint off of drives. A lot of those coming off of those points off of turnovers, like you're saying, Doug. And then, you know, this is what Elon does. They shoot threes. They make 10 a game. They're 1 of 7 in this half, and that's Duke's defense. You know, they don't let you run your stuff. And so Elon, a lot of those shots they've been accustomed to getting this year, they've just been taken out of their offense, and Duke forcing them to have to be individual creators.
The only 3 made so far for Elon by Gerald Gillens Butler. First foul on Trevor Keels. Check that on Wendell Moore. Dangerous pass. Bates-Jones into the game for Duke. Knocked that one into the backcourt and out of bounds. The graduate transfer from Davidson. McIntosh glances over at his bench, and with only 12 on the shot clock, looks to engage. 3-point shot. Hannah, nothing but net.
Guy who's only played 3 games, was hurt to start the year. Mike Schrage calls him their warrior. Plays with great energy. They've needed his leadership.
Shooter's roll for Trevor Keels. He is on some kind of roll with 15 points here in the first half.
Just been too easy driving the ball to the basket. Not a lot of resistance off the dribble by this Elon defense.
Elon could use that young man to get going. Zach Irvin buries his first 3.
Tough shot.
Baker trying to get 2 back at the other end. Going right at Irvin. On second effort, he gets those 2. Well, you talked about the growth in his game. That he came in as a 3-point shooter and now can do more things. Here's Hannah. Burford kicks. Another shot for Irvin. 2 in a row for the 6'5" junior from Virginia. Wendell Moore, and it's again another straight line drive and an easy 2 for the Blue Devils.
He's become such a good slasher with the ball. Just a really good finisher at the rim.
Well, he has said as he grew up in Charlotte, he was a big Duke fan, and his favorite player, not surprisingly, was Grant Hill, and that he's always patterned his game after all of the versatility that Grant was able to do. One minute to go in the half. since we pointed out the fact that Elon wasn't making threes. They've made their last three. Moore off the hesitation. Again, using that window to great effect.
He's the work he did in the offseason on his body has helped facilitate his ability to drive it this year. He's more on balance. He's stronger. It's really tough when he's slashing to the basket.
Well, Chris, in the last 30 years, the only power conference player to average 17 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists a game, and shoot better than 50% from the floor was Ohio State's Evan Turner, who back in 2010, oh, by the way, was the National Player of the Year. And the reason we bring it up is that Wendell Moore is on that kind of trajectory this year.
He's the one guy, the one Duke player who has been there pretty much every game. You know, guys have had big moments in certain games, and guys have been up and down in certain games. Wendell Moore has been there every single day, and I think Duke's staff would tell you he's been there in practice too every day.
Burford, no. 2 seconds. Here's Moore, gives a heave. An impressive first 20 minutes for the Blue Devils.
It sure was. Turning those live ball turnovers the other direction. Got their offense going early. Elon's got to make some shots in the second half. I mean, it sounds obvious, but they got to make threes. It's what they do.
At the half, our score from Durham, 44-26. After the break, Dallin Cuff, Luke Hancock will bring you more hoops action from all across the country. Welcome back to Cameron Indoor Stadium. Number 2, Duke, 44, Elon, 26. With Chris Patola, I'm Doug Sherman. And I tell you what, the Blue Devils in those first 20 minutes, Chris, got to the basket and controlled the paint the entire time.
Yeah, they have been so aggressive off the bounce and not a lot of resistance from Elon. 7 different guys scored in that half for Duke. They shot at 54%, largely on the backs of outscoring Elon 30-8 in the paint. And look, these aren't post-ups. I mean, these are guys just off the dribble, attacking their Elon defender. Elon really locked in on their individual matchups. Not a lot of help behind that penetration.
And here is tonight's game refresh brought to you by Subway. Points in the paint, there illustrates on the top line, 30-8. And unless Elon, without a true rim protector, can shore that up, I don't see how they make a big push in the second half.
Yeah. No, look, they have a hard time manufacturing points outside of the three-point line. I mean, they don't get to the foul line a lot. They're not a great rebounding team, so they're not going to be able to create extra possessions. You know, they've got to guard the ball. They've got to be more gapped up. You've got to try to limit penetration, force Duke into taking some threes in this second half. And on the other end, they've got to use each other. A lot of dribbling, a lot of one guy trying to take on this Duke defense. They've got to try to create some open perimeter threes. It's like the 3 they had to end the half.
Love that visual to start the second half. The visiting player with the Cameron Crazies, even though it's not the same because the students aren't here, or at least not many of them are, in between semesters. That's one of the great visuals in all sport. Not just college basketball, but to see them hanging over some of the print media and digital media down there, making their presence felt. Underway, second half. Banchero blocks the shot attempt by Gerald Gillens Butler.
Again, a lot of dribbling to get to that point. The length of Banchero from behind. 7 seconds on the shot clock.
McIntosh, no. Williams had it for a moment and then was fouled by Gillens Butler. Well, obviously, for Mike Schrage and the Phoenix coming in, whenever you play these games, as they've played many of them this year against Carolina, against Florida, against Duke here today, you're trying to build in the Colonial Athletic Association, and they have done that. In his first 2 years, the former Duke assistant has gotten his Phoenix better, and they have performed extremely well in the CAA tournament the last 2 years, including last year going from a play-in game all the way to the championship game. And so that's what they're hoping this experience, as much as anything, is Williams again just turns and shoots over a much smaller defender. You're trying to learn and get better out of this experience, even if it comes in a loss.
Well, they were outstanding at the end of the season last year. And as they get healthier, again, they have not been healthy this year. I think as they get Chuck Hanna back in this lineup, Gillens Butler back in this lineup, you'll see this team get better in conference play.
McIntosh misfires from the corner. And those two guys you mentioned for the Phoenix are playing today, but they are still rounding back into form. They have not been able to log regular minutes this year. One of them here, Gillens Butler, the former Butler Bulldog. A lot of dribbling there, and he has to use a timeout to keep possession. 18:27 remaining in the second half. Duke up 20 over Elon. Back at Cameron Indoor, where Mr. Gillens Butler was part of a huge Wednesday night for both women's and men's basketball at Elon. At about the exact same time, first the women won on a buzzer beater in Greensboro. Meanwhile, Gerald Gillens Butler, exactly 1 year to the day after he suffered a ruptured Achilles tendon, did that. And for that, not only did he get mobbed by his teammates, Elon basketball, women's and men's, was all over SportsCenter that night as well. Pretty cool stuff.
We asked Mike Schrage before the game, as Graham Dunks went home, where he came up with that play. He said he got it from the Portland Trailblazers. And Gillens Butler on the play was actually option C. It's a Dame Lillard, C.J. McCollum play. A great pass from McIntosh to find Butler.
And that's just playing ball. I mean, he was quick to point out the fact that McIntosh made the right decision, as opposed to trying to be the hero himself and selfishly take what is not going to be as good a shot as what you found. He gave it to his teammate, trusted him, and they got a win for it.
Well, Gillens Butler, start of last season, he was one of their best players, if not their best player. And he tore his Achilles the third game of the season last year. And they really missed him because he's a jack of all trades. I mean, he's really versatile, particularly in that league. He's got really good size.
He was preseason all-conference honorable mention coming into the year in spite of coming off of that Achilles injury, which again has slowed him down. He's not been able to play full minutes. They're still easing him back in again with the eye on January, February, March in CAA play. 1 or 2 from the line for Wendell Moore. He's got 10 points. The lead 47-28 Blue Devils. Here's Gillens Butler, lost it on the way up. And the whistle is for a foul. Second foul on Mark Williams. So Gillens Butler, who was a 4-star recruit coming out of Calvary Christian Academy in Florida, at the line shooting 2. Well, Tuesday at 6 Eastern right here on ACCN and the ESPN app, we'll have the Huddle Bowl Preview Show. Jordan Cornette, Eric McLean, E.J. Manuel, and Mark Richt will take a look at the 10 ACC teams playing in bowl games with team breakdowns and comprehensive analysis like only the guys can provide. By the way, the ACC has sent at least 10 teams to a bowl every year since 2016. Off the turnover, Hunter McIntosh back the other way. Picked up in midcourt defensively by Jeremy Roach. Little step back for Gillens Butler.
About 225 pounds. He can really create space.
Williams tries to go baseline. And the foul comes as Michael Graham, who is 6'8", was trying to keep the 7-footer from getting to the basket again. Foul number 3 on Mr. Graham, who, by the way, is no relation to the Michael Graham you and I remember from the Georgetown Hoyas back in the 80s. Same name, but not related at all. Michael Graham really the Georgetown guy. Good high-low, Banchero off the feet from Williams. But the 80s Michael Graham really embodied that Hoya paranoia, right? He was looking to take your head off, or so it seemed.
Sure was. Part of that. I mean, that was, talk about defense. Game-changing defense. A good high-low here. You know, Williams to Banchero. It's a massive front line for Duke. 7-foot Mark Williams, 6'10 Banchero. The only real question mark with Banchero in his game is how much he sweats. 7 pounds a game. Did you see that report during the hunt? 7 pounds. I wonder why there weren't more questions asked. That's a lot of sweat.
Yeah, 7 pounds.
They were talking about that during the Ohio State game, that he sweats 7 pounds a game. And it's, they're trying to figure out why he had been cramping. He cramped in a couple games this year, and it's, but how do you measure how much somebody sweats? Like, how are you measuring 7 pounds of sweat? That's a lot of sweat if you really think about it. And it just kind of disappeared into the ether. I'm concerned medically.
Really concerned. I just know I'm happy not to be part of the equation. I have no interest in testing another man's level of perspiration.
Well, I'm thinking at some point an NIL deal from some sort of deodorant company would have been in order.
So you're saying he starts every game at 250 and winds up at 243?
Allegedly.
That is something. Williams out. And Theo John, the Marquette grad transfer, back onto the floor for the Duke Blue Devils. And he had a really good career at Marquette. He's their second all-time leading shot blocker. And if you're anywhere in the top 5 at Marquette in any category, that is really saying something. Second foul on Banchero. And you see Coach K going and getting A.J. Griffin from the bench and putting him back into the game, replacing Banchero, who will sit with those 2 personals. Irvin's pass out of bounds. He's saying Duke deflected it, but none of the 3 officials saw it. And so it's another Phoenix turnover, number 11 on the game. Jeremy Roach gives to Wendell Moore Jr. Using the John screen. Keels had it knocked away. 10 to shoot. Moore posting up Irvin. Little step back off the back iron. Rebound cleared by Gerald Gillens Butler. Butler end to end for 2.
He's been good. That's now 2 games running for Gerald Gillens Butler. But Mike Schrage, of course, spent time at Butler as an assistant coach under Chris Holtman and had recruited Gillens Butler to Butler. So he had that relationship, that prior relationship.
First 2-point bucket for Zach Irvin. And the junior from Gate City, Virginia makes it 53-35. Post defender Hunter McIntosh going to be called for the foul. And that'll take us to our next media timeout. 53-35. All Blue Devils. The freshman from Clinton, Maryland, Trevor Keels, leads all scorers today with 15 points.
Yeah, he's been efficient. You know, Keels a guy who announced his presence on the scene with authority in that Kentucky game, game 1 of the season. He hasn't quite reached the level he was in that game the rest of the way here. His shooting numbers in the 30s, but he's been solid. And I think what we have found after this 2-week break they had, he's shooting the ball better from the perimeter. And he's been efficient again here today.
I'm sorry, Chris, although still only 1 for 4 from 3 today, but that does not deter the coaching staff from understanding those shots are going to fall more frequently.
Yeah, John Shire was saying that today. It'll come. And there you see there. I mean, he's came into college with the reputation as a shooter. I'd love to see him attack it off the bounce. I mean, that's what he did in that Kentucky game. Because he's going to outweigh guys guarding him by 30 to 40 pounds. I mean, he's 220 pounds, built solidly.
Theo John on the steal. And he will head to the line after the foul committed by Darius Burford. Yeah, there's no doubt Trevor Keels is every bit of 220 pounds. And again, he's just a freshman. And that game you're talking about in the season opener, 25 points in the Champions Classic against Kentucky at Madison Square Garden. And only R.J. Barrett and Zion Williamson have scored more in a Duke debut than Trevor Keels did earlier this season.
I mean, he won that game for him, to be honest. He put that team on his back in the second half.
Tuesday night, right here on ACC Network and the ESPN app, the Tar Heels host Appalachian State at the Smith Center, 7 o'clock Eastern Time. UNC has won 5 in a row, but he is playing number 21 Kentucky later today at 5:30. So they are just about to tip things off. So, you know, this is a big day for the ACC in terms of non-conference play. It has not worked, Chris, through the first, 6-7 weeks of the regular season the way it usually does for the ACC. And this is probably their last opportunity as a collective group to come up with some signature non-conference victories.
Yeah, it has not been good for the league. You said it.
Well, the folks at Cameron getting fired up about the defensive intensity, but it leads to a blocking foul called against Theo John, his 3rd.
And that's where games against Duke in conference play, Duke and Carolina, are going to become big-time games for everybody else, especially the middle portion of the league, because the non-conference was not good. It hurts the league analytically, so the only way to bolster your resume, your net ranking, is to try to beat Duke and Carolina, because both those teams have pretty good non-conferences.
John picks up his 4th on the reach-in. So on the schedule today, there were 2 ACC teams playing non-conference ranked opponents. One is Georgia Tech against USC, and the 10th-ranked Trojans lead that 53-39. They're playing in Phoenix midway through the second half. North Carolina, as we just mentioned, will play in just a few minutes against number 21 Kentucky out in Vegas. But Louisville went to Western Kentucky and lost by 10. Notre Dame against Indiana lost 64-56. So those are a couple of huge opportunities lost by the ACC. Griffin gives it back to Baker. His 3-ball rattles out. Griffin keeps it alive. The one good score is that Pittsburgh defeated St. John's today, although the Red Storm were without one of their 2 best players. Champagny was out. Nonetheless, though, a win's a win's a win. And when you're Pittsburgh and Coach Capel, you need everyone you can get.
No question. I mean, that was one of the byproducts of going to 20 games. 20 conference games in the ACC. It puts more pressure on your non-conference. You have to come up with some marquee wins, because once you get into conference play,
right,
you know, you essentially can't really go up or down depending on who you're playing.
Syracuse was scheduled to play Lehigh this afternoon, but because of a COVID pause in Syracuse, that game was called off. And then the other game on the schedule follows us here on ACC Network. Clemson home against South Carolina, and that would be another good feather in the cap non-conference wise. Gillen's Butler stood up with the basketball, and that's going to be a travel. 14th turnover for Elon. Roach tries to find Baker, can't do it. He winds up in the front row. Duke gets it right back. Baker for three. Griffin snatches the rebound, gets it to the wing for Roach, who connects.
It's about the third rebound in the last minute and a half that A.J. Griffin has just snatched with that bear claw of his in traffic.
Good recovery by Roach to poke that ball away out of bounds. It's an 8-0 run. Duke expands the lead to 61-35.
I mean, he just snatches that from two guys, and then the presence of mind, nice job by Roach to call for it. So Griffin knew he was there.
And we asked Coach K after shoot-around today about Griffin and how he is rounding into form. And he said as much as anybody on this Duke team, he benefited from that 2-week break, and he has really stepped up his game in the 3 games since.
Well, they need help on the glass. I mean, that's the one area. Bancaro called with a charge. You know what? I'll get to my point after the break, Doug. I began it in a break zone.
I'll wait with bated breath. All right, the long wait is over.
Well, I mean, it was
the pearls of wisdom from Chris Patola about Mr. Griffin.
Well, I think the point was, all right, it was more of an in-game thing. It wasn't a tease to break. So, you know, everybody sit down on your couches. No, look, the one area, if you're going to nitpick Duke, and look, they're 9-1, the one loss coming on the road at Ohio State. They have not rebounded well. You know, they gave up 21 offensive rebounds to South Carolina State. They gave up 13 to App State. If you go back to the 3 best teams they've played, Kentucky, Gonzaga, and Ohio State, they are -24 on the glass in those 3 games combined. Now, again, they only lost one of those. But that's the one area for, you know, ending those defensive possessions with a defensive rebound is an important thing for Duke, I think, moving forward.
There's an offensive rebound given up. Duke only +6 so far in this game. Phoenix unable to capitalize. And Wendell Moore picks the rebound, dribbles up himself. And a foul on the entry.
So did that point do it for you? Or, man, you're a hard man to please.
No, but I'm still hoping for more of your thoughts on how A.J. Griffin fits into that, because that's kind of how we went down that path.
Well, it was after he had grabbed a few rebounds. You know, I used the word snatch, which is a really strong term, and, you know, when it comes to grabbing the basketball. So I figured I'd use that as a segue. And then, of course, Elon grabs an offensive rebound right after I made the point, which was nicely done by them.
Very timely.
Checking in for the first time this afternoon, number 4, Sam Sherry.
Well, we have 4 women's basketball games tomorrow afternoon beginning at noon Eastern, but we're going to focus on these 2. Virginia Tech, Florida State, 2 Eastern, followed by number 2, North Carolina State, taking on the Hoos, 4 p.m. Eastern, ACCN. All games on the ACC Network and the ESPN app, one tap.
Elisa Cunane.
Very good.
Monster on the block. One of my favorite players in the league.
Williams, nice feed to Roach. Good way to turn a turnover into 2 quick points. Roach has got it. And the lead stretches to 64-35. Moore commits the foul. And we're talking about how well Griffin has played since the 2-week break as we take another look at the Williams feed to Roach. His game against South Carolina State was a revelation, and I watched the game and I didn't realize. I knew he had played well, but he played his career high over 20 minutes. He was so efficient, finished up with a tremendous stat line, and I thought he kind of did it quietly, and he kind of followed that up with another really good game against App State. And I get the sense that A.J. Griffin is going to be a real force as they turn the corner with Virginia Tech to start ACC play coming up in just a few days. Williams has it picked off. The double team work for the Phoenix. And the throwdown by Gillens Butler. He leads the Phoenix with 14 points. Keels, Bancaro, Roach, Baker, and Williams, the 5 on the floor for Duke. Little high-low again. Here's Bancaro. Gets it blocked by Sam Sherry. Then the foul.
Nice play going in the other direction here. The double team confuses Mark Williams. Not a good pass out of there. Nice job by Gillens Butler, who's having himself a really good day despite the score. One bright spot today if you're Mike Schrage.
14 points leading Elon in the scoring column. And again, if you missed it, this game came together in very short time. I mean, 26 hours ago, this was not on the schedule. And so the connections between Elon head coach Mike Schrage and his former boss Mike Krzyzewski helped to get this game put together on very short notice. This window was originally scheduled for Cleveland State to come to Cameron Indoor. They had to take a COVID pause. Then Loyola Maryland was put into this spot, and then the Greyhounds had a similar pause. And that's all happened over the last, 48 hours? And so Elon, just about a 40-minute drive away from Cameron, able to come to some sort of an agreement. They got out of a Division II game against Shaw that they were supposed to play today to instead come and play the Blue Devils, and the opportunity for the former Duke assistant to come and face off against Mike Krzyzewski. And even though when we talked to Mike before the game, Mike Schrage that is, he downplayed, even though he acknowledged the fact that this is a big deal for me to come in. He didn't want to make it about him, of course, and you've known him for many, many years, but you come into Cameron Indoor, you used to work at Duke, it's a big deal.
Well, he was saying his son and daughter are here today. His wife Mandy is here today. And he was saying, when I left Duke, my son was 3 years old. And I've talked about Duke to him so much, but he doesn't remember it. And so to bring my son and daughter back here to Duke and see me coach against Coach K in his final season, it's really special. And under these circumstances, it's pretty crazy. That's why we said off the top, it's pretty cool that with all the winding roads to get to this place, that Elon and Mike Schrage gets to bring his team in here is pretty cool.
The one drawback for having it come together on such short notice is that Coach Schrage's parents couldn't come in from Atlanta, but we're sure they're watching on ACC Network and very proud of their son. And again, Mike Schrage's father is a professor emeritus at Georgia Tech University. Dr. Schrage is a professor emeritus in aerospace engineering.
You can't even say it.
I can't. But former basketball player at West Point, where he was a teammate with Coach K, and so that is all kind of the genesis of where we got to the point where the Phoenix are playing the Blue Devils. And you mentioned off the top again in that connection world, and the college basketball world, I'm never surprised at how you guys all know each other and are interconnected. And again, you trace it back even farther that Mike Schrage's dad played at Army for, of course, Bob Knight. And when Mike went off to college, he went to Indiana University, where he was a 4-year student manager for Coach Knight. Nothing but net for Jeremy Roach. Aerospace engineering. was not the educational track I took.
Well, he's a West Point graduate. What do you expect?
The leader of men. And I don't even say that facetiously. As Coach K says, it's the greatest institution for leadership in the world. 4 points for Darius Burford, the sophomore from Bolingbrook, Illinois, 71-39. Blue Devils, just over 8 minutes remaining in the second half. Griffin, a little short. Nice setup. And the freshman missed the layup. He got his 2 points, but I tell you what, Sam Sherry just cost his guard an assist.
He wanted a rebound.
We'll step away with 7:54 on the clock. Duke up 30. Chris Patola, you've been to Cameron Indoor Stadium literally thousands of times. Have you ever played Blue Devil Bingo?
No, that's pretty innovative. I have never seen that before.
So we're going to have Blue Devil Bingo if and when Duke gets to the 80-point threshold, which, as you can see, is well within sight. With the former Duke assistant Chris Patola, I'm Doug Sherman, 71-41. The number 2 ranked team in the country looking very good. Until I say that, Baker has the ball just stripped away. Watson, who has had a very quiet game. He's a senior who transferred in from Missouri, a former ESPN 100 recruit coming out of high school. He's been averaging over 12 per game, but he's not really been involved. There's a Duke turnover, can't run the baseline. Bates-Jones off of the turnover. But what, if anything, do you make of the fact that Torrance Watson has not been able to be involved?
Yeah, he's been very streaky this year. I mean, look, he had a game where he's got 34 against High Point, and that loss to High Point. The other thing, too, when you play Duke, and I do know this from having worked for Coach, like, he is very deliberate about taking the other team's best player. Kind of Belichick-esque in that regard. Like, we are going to take the best player out of the game. And you may have to give some stuff up in order to do that. But they'll put what they call an awareness on that guy, and they are very deliberate about taking that best player out. And, they've done a very nice job. Wendell Moore has guarded him most of the day. And that's one of the areas, and all the things we've mentioned about Moore offensively. He typically guards the other team's best perimeter player and done a really good job on Watson today.
Who are Duke's best individual defenders this year?
Moore's one of those guys. I think Keel's on the basketball, changes the game. Jeremy Roach on the ball. Those guys at the point of attack. I thought Theo John was going to be more active. I think they still wait for him to wake up a little bit and make his presence felt.
Again, as we mentioned in the first half, John transferred in after 4 years at Marquette. Baker with a left-handed finish, where he at Marquette is the second all-time leading shot blocker. And he's not going to play the kind of minutes this year, presumably at Duke, where he's going to pile up as many block shots. But you're right, you would expect him to play a big role at that end of the floor.
And he's a good transfer to get, because he's a grown man who's played a lot of college basketball and is good for your locker room.
3 ball for Hunter McIntosh.
I think coaches are figuring out, this transfer portal. It's not about just going in and getting the best player available. It's getting a player who's good, but who fits your identity and fits the guys you have in your program.
Bates-Jones Speaking of graduate transfers, the former Davidson Wildcat has his first three of the night. Off the takeaway. Jalen Blights misses the dunk. That ball bounced off of an Elon player's hands, Hunter Woods, and somehow Durham through the rim.
That whole exchange from the missed dunk. Bates Jones goes down mid-court, and then the way that bucket went in, it was Keystone Cops. I mean, what an exchange from end to end.
Blakes gives up the open look. And then a bad shot by Bates Jones. A little better on the follow. Well, he should get that offensive rebound because the shooter knows before anybody else if it's off like that. All right, describe this for me, basketball analyst Chris Patola.
Well, this is how you draw it up, right? I mean, you want to throw a nice little touch pass, a double tap up to the rim, and then you got to use the glass. When you're that close, Doug, and you're going to double tap it like that, you've got to be able to use the glass. Nicely done here. As he gathers. I mean, and the thing is, we missed the front end, the missed dunk. Then the turf monster comes up at midcourt, grabs Bates Jones somehow. He blames it on some sweat on the court. I don't, And then you get the double tap to the rim.
And at the end of it, I don't know how Hunter Woods didn't smile. You just got 2 points with your back to the basket.
I think being down 31 probably.
Well.
What do you mean, well? You can't pop a smile down 31.
You can pop a smile. You've got to acknowledge that was pretty crazy. Blake's the steal. And this time he just lays it off the glass for two. You can smile. Come on, Spatola.
You are softer than tissue paper.
You're welcome. Good ball fake and then penetration for Burford. He's got 6 points. 5 minutes remaining. Blocked. Chuck Hanna with a rejection. Another Phoenix turnover. Griffin goes strong to the goal one more time. The points in the paint have been a theme right from the start. The Blue Devils have dominated the game from the beginning. And they have seemingly been able to get anything they want inside of 15 feet. Michael Savarino comes into the game. Keenan Worthington, who, by the way, did you see what Keenan Worthington did? The show-stopping tip dunk to close out the South Carolina State win?
I did.
Bench went crazy. Awesome.
You love when the bench guys make plays.
Oh, these are my guys. Get up shots. Don't worry about what the coach tells you. Just shoot. See? On cue. My guys. Shoot the ball. Savarino's second made three of the season. And as we said yesterday in Charlotte, really, how is that different than you starting at Army? Shoot the ball.
You're right. You're right.
You don't become a Patriot League scoring champion by passing the ball. Am I right?
Well, yeah, certainly not at the ends of blowouts. One thing Savarino could do, though, he can't shoot.
And it is his habit, as we saw today, to be out early before practice, before shoot around, and stay around late, getting shots up. Good looking stroke by the lefty Chuck Hanna.
Jalen Blakes, he got it back. Got himself a layup here. Little B-I-N-G-O, B-I-N-G-O, and bingo was its name. Oh.
We welcome you to ACC Network Basketball presented by Subway. Back inside Cameron Indoor Stadium, a building that opened in 1940 and is a temple to the sport of basketball. And one of the big motivators for why Duke really wanted to play a game today, whether it was against Loyola or whether it was against Cleveland State or Elon, as we talked about in the first half, with the students on break, there are a lot more tickets available at this time of the season than usual. So there are folks from around the country who make a lot of travel plans to get here and make their pilgrimage to Cameron Indoor. And so they've been able to do that. At least a couple thousand people who probably otherwise wouldn't be in the building.
Yeah, I mean, look, Duke didn't have to play this game. I mean, in terms of preparing themselves moving forward. And they got Virginia Tech coming up. They played 2 games this week. But it was, out of duty to those fans who show up. And it is a cool tradition this time every year. And it happens at other schools when the students go home.
That ovation is for the defensive pressure being applied by Spencer Hubbard. The bench for Duke jumped up in concert with the fans getting fired up for number 55.
See, now this, in a blowout, I can get down with.
Come on.
Let's celebrate a little defensive effort. A little pressure on the basketball there.
This is revisionist history. I got to get some film from Army basketball a few years ago and see how much you were getting on the floor like that. Come on. That was well done for number 55. 5 feet 8 inches tall, from Los Angeles, out of Harvard Westlake High School. That won't show up in the box score, but that had to feel good. And here is Worthington, the junior from nearby Chapel Hill, at the line. Tuesday at 6 p.m. Eastern, right here on ACCN and the ESPN app. We'll have the Huddle Bowl Preview Show. Jordan Cornett, Eric McLean, E.J. Manuel, and Mark Rick will take a look at the 10 ACC teams playing in bowl games this year with team breakdowns and comprehensive analysis like only the guys can provide. Michael Savarino getting after the ball handler as well. Under 2 minutes remaining. Shot clock. Blakes to Jones. Worthington taps it out. Wide open look by Savarino. A little strong. And for those of you looking for Clemson, South Carolina, we will get you to that ball game as soon as this one wraps up. You're on ACC Network. Irvin again shows a really nice touch.
He does have a nice touch. 70% of his shots in the year are threes. He is a specialist.
1 minute remaining.
Savarino. Savarino a little slow to get up after taking a fall on the baseline. He looks like he's okay. And so now Hubbard with a chance for his first points of the year. Pretty cool.
It sure is.
Tuesday night, right here on ACC Network and the ESPN app, the Tar Heels host App State at the Smith Center, 7 o'clock Eastern. UNC has won 5 in a row, but is playing number 21 Kentucky as we speak. We shall see if the Tar Heels are ranked for that game. If they get themselves back into the top 25, certainly a win tonight would probably do that. But at the moment, the Tar Heels are losing 23-8 to the Wildcats, middle of the first half. Hunter Woods from Pasadena, California. John Muir High School.
One of the best wins the league has had was that Notre Dame win over Kentucky in South Bend. It's been a good thing for Kentucky in preparation for it's going to Carolina. That Carolina defense has been better. Doesn't sound like it's great off the top of that game.
No. Although the offense seems to be the bigger problem for the Tar Heels at the moment. They're halfway through the first half and don't have double figures.
That's from two guys who are just going based off the score. We haven't even really watched it. Look at that analysis.
In depth. Worthington gets 1 out of 2. R.J. Nord, reserve guard from Decatur, Georgia. Shot clock is off, and the Blue Devils can dribble it out. Well, Chris, the number 2 ranked team in the country has played the part against Elon here today.
Yeah, they did, and it started from the tip. They really hurt Elon in the paint early in this game and closed it out in this second half the way they should. Playing well.
19 points for Trevor Keels in an 87-56 Duke win. Coming up next is South Carolina and Clemson. Mike Monaco, Jordan Cornette on the call. So long from Durham, North Carolina.